We're all going through a crisis at the moment, aren't we, with COVID-19, with emotions ranging from happiness to sadness to confidence to anxiety. I probably felt all those emotions in the last 7 days, probably the last 24 hours. And they come in waves. One minute we can be confident, next minute we can be anxious as we think about the future affected by COVID. But it's okay, because when we're feeling anxious, we know we have to take action, we have to do something. And that's important. So what I'd like to do today is share some of my story, some of the crisis moments I've been through, that I've taken on board, and how I'm using some of that experience in my own journey to tackle COVID. And I hope there'll be some encouragement and learnings that will be helpful for you as you navigate COVID as well. So my background, my name's David Barker, and I was one of the UK's first internet entrepreneurs in the early 1990s. Very exciting time to be pioneering the internet at the start of the digital age, the digital revolution. Funnily enough, it very nearly didn't happen for me. When I was 15 years old, I decided I wasn't going to college and university. That's a good path to go into careers, but I just wanted to go into work. So I went to see my careers advisor to ask for help and support, and told him I wasn't going to college and university. But my dream was to get into the technology industry, and he just cut me dead and said, that's not possible. You're from a poor community in North Manchester. Without a degree, you'll never break free from that start, and you'll never get into technology. So let's stop now. Let's lower that aspiration, and I can help you get a job in a shop, which is fine if you want a career in retail. But I didn't. I wanted a career in technology. But he said he wouldn't help. So I said no. And sometimes people ask me, what's an entrepreneur? I just think it's that ability to see a different future, to say no to the people that are saying it's not possible, and find a way. So I did. I said no to no help. I left school unemployed, trying to find my way into the technology industry. That was hard. This was the time when there weren't charities helping unemployed youth to get into work. There was nothing that could help you apart from yourself. But the first three skills of entrepreneurship: self-reliance, independence, and resilience. What better training ground to develop those skills than being unemployed? And well, that's a positive way to think about it. Obviously back then I wasn't thinking like that. I was, how am I going to do this? But the only way is to find a way. So I wrote letters to companies. Would they give a young person like me a chance to get into technology? But then you start to not hear back, and you think, wow, is it true? Is it not possible? But don't think like that. Every employer gets 500 letters, 1,000 applicants asking for opportunities. They haven't got time to write back to everybody, fortunately. So it's not about you, it's not about me. We just got to keep pressing in through that self-doubt. But 3 months in, nothing was happening, and what was I going to do? But I kept looking, and then I found this government scheme called the Youth Training Scheme, asking employers to give young people a chance. So I tried, I applied and got 2 interviews. One with Shell Oil, this big global oil company, offering an accountancy apprenticeship. And then I had this interview with this small business working in education using technology. Both came back and said, you're hired. And I suddenly had these 2 amazing opportunities, and everyone was saying to me, David, take Shell Oil, job for life, best opportunity you'll ever get from your background. And they were offering 3 times the money of the small business, or what they could afford. But for me, there was only one option on that table, and that was with the small business. I had a dream since I was 13 to get into technology. Even though there was an amazing opportunity for a career with Shell Oil, it was a career that wasn't technology. I said no. I took the opportunity from a small business and started working for them. Yes, it was 1/3 of the money. It didn't matter. It paid the bus fares, it paid my lunch, it got me that job opportunity. And I was there for 7 years. 2 years in, I was project managing people twice my age at 18 years old. 5 years later, 7 years in, I saw something that I thought was going to change the world, and that was the internet. I was very excited. I wanted to get into the internet. The crisis I was in, though, my business because I was just an employee, said they weren't doing it. They weren't going into the internet, at least not in the beginning. And I sat there like, if I'm going to go into the internet, I'm going to have to create a business, become an entrepreneur. Never intended to. I think most people are accidental entrepreneurs. But I knew I couldn't do it on my own. So I spoke to 3 friends, colleagues, and we did it. We all resigned from our jobs and created one of the first digital marketing agencies in the UK. No money, no clients, no income, but a dream. And we pursued that dream. We were networking, telling people what we could believe we could do with the internet. A month in, 2 months in, we didn't have work yet, running out of money. But the good news is when we found somebody who believed in us and gave us our first contract, £15,000. Amazing. But we looked at the brief and we thought we can do better. So we over-delivered. The client was blown away. He worked for Microsoft. And he said, I'm going to tell my mate about you guys. His mate worked at Intel. So suddenly we were working for Intel, then Unilever, Cisco. We went from working in our back bedrooms to growing one of the fast-growing digital marketing agencies in the UK. Over the next 10 years, after that, I became very wealthy, traveling the world, working with global corporations on driving the internet age. But then I had another crisis moment in 2004. Traveling the world, I felt there was more poverty, more unemployment, more social injustice. It started to weigh heavy on me. So much so, October the 15th, 2004, I resigned from my business. I left because I wanted to tackle these social issues with no money, no income, just a dream, a new dream to do something about poverty and unemployment. I did some research, and out of that research came my first idea for a social enterprise. It was pop-up academies training long-term unemployed people into work. Through my research, I found many places in the UK there just wasn't the right training for unemployed people to provide the right technical skills, the right digital skills, and the right soft skills people need today in the modern workplace. So I came up with the idea, but I didn't have the funding to finance it. And the problem I had was there just wasn't the funding for social enterprises in innovation like this. So the only way to do this was to fund it myself, but I didn't have the money. So I found a way. I decided I'd go back into the corporate sector. I'd make the money I needed to develop the social enterprise. And why not? It's a great way to develop a social enterprise sometimes, is make money to do something. So I did 2005, 2006, 2007. I was making money and then also hiring people to work with me on the social enterprise in parallel. Everything was going really well. I was 6 months away from finishing the development to launch the pop-up academies. But then as we got into 2008, massive crisis arrived, what's now called the Great Recession of 2008. Massive issue. The economy froze, people stopped spending. Issue for me wasn't the recession, it's what one of my clients did in the corporate sector. They decided not to pay one of my bills, £75,000. And by not paying me meant I didn't have the money to pay the people on the social enterprise. They understood, they said it wasn't my fault, but they couldn't do any more work until that bill was paid. But I couldn't because they wouldn't pay me. At the same time, my mother rang up and said, my dad's got cancer. You know, suddenly my whole world started to unravel. It was going so well, and suddenly, default, no money, couldn't pay the bill myself. Dad's got cancer. What do? Do you give up? Do you carry on? Fight or flight, right? I wasn't going to flee though. This vision of this pop-up academies, I knew they were going to change people's lives in the future. It's worth hanging on to. So I kept hold of that dream. You may have a dream right now with COVID. You may think it's gone. The dream hasn't gone. Maybe the route to get there has changed and you have to find another way. It won't be easy. It never is. But if the dream's worth having, it's worth pursuing. And it's worth going through a bit of pain to get there, yeah? So I decided to keep pressing in. But it was hard through 2008. No one was spending. It was hard to make any money. My money kept running out. I was engaged at the time, and the pressure of all that, we parted. I was on my own, alone. Sometimes I was even volunteering in soup kitchens for homeless people just so I could eat as well as a volunteer. It was crazy time. And as I went through 2008, by the end of 2008, the problem was still there. Recession was still holding the world to ransom. I got to January 2009, 12 months in, I was physically exhausted. I was mentally exhausted. I couldn't carry on. First time in my life, I couldn't find that breakthrough. I was at my most broken, and that was my give up moment. And we all face it, don't we? That give up moment, that's it. I've had enough. I've got to leave this now. And I always say, just find the energy for one more week. Find the breakthrough. It's worth another week. So I did. I set myself free to, this is going to end in a week's time. If I haven't found the answer, I'm going to have to walk away. Otherwise, it's going to drag me under. But I didn't sit at home worrying and waiting for the phone to ring, for something to happen, because it doesn't work like that. You've got to press in. I was networking. I was still telling people, I'm working on these pop-up academies. They're going to come. Will you have a conversation with me when they arrive? And at the same time, I had coffee with a friend who told me about a group of guys that were meeting on Saturday for breakfast. He said it was 7 a.m. on a Saturday. I thought, I'm exhausted. I'm not going to a breakfast at 7 a.m. on Saturday, 2 days before my D-Day, my deadline. I woke up at 5 a.m. on Saturday morning, full of life. I went for breakfast. It was a great breakfast, great guys. They're still friends now. And as I was leaving, I met a guy. He'd come all the way from Bath. We were in London. He said, I don't want to go home yet. Do you want to go for coffee? So we did. We had coffee, and he told me his story. I told him mine. He says, I'm amazed. You've just been sacrificing everything for people who don't even know you exist. I know. And no one's tried to help yet. And what if I could lend you £1,000? What would you do? And I keep going. I'd reset my clock again a month or two, try and find the answer to this default that's just held me over for 12 months and in the grips of this recession still. So right, give me your sort code and account number. So I went home, logged into my account. I was thinking, is he really going to pay that £1,000? He didn't. He put in £25,000, and I messaged him and said, that's amazing. He said, I'm sorry, that's all I can transfer in one day. On Tuesday, put in another £25,000. Wednesday, another £25,000. I was blown away. He said it was a loan. I said, that's fine. That's all I needed. I paid off that debt to the social enterprise people that are doing that with me. They said, brilliant, let's carry on. The recession unfroze. People started paying me again in the corporate sector to keep developing the social enterprise. At the same time, my mum phoned me up, said my dad's been cleared of cancer. It's crazy. Sometimes that's how it works. You just got to press in the crazy time and just find your way through. 6 months later, the social enterprise was finished. I launched it July 2009. And one of those people I was networking with during that dark year won a massive contract from government to train unemployed people, but they had patches where they couldn't find the training providers. That's what provided the first £1 million contract for my social enterprise. And we opened in 2010, and we opened in Glasgow and Newcastle and Skelmersdale, Worcester, London, Guildford, Eastbourne. It was so exciting after 4 years to see the scaling up of these social enterprises. We were training long-term unemployed people into work. One woman in Glasgow, 19 years unemployed. We empowered her with technical skills, digital skills, soft skills, the confidence. She's now working. Graduates 2 years unemployed, giving up hope, now working. It was just amazing, phenomenal. But it was that dream of that moment which kept me going 2 years before, year before, through the crisis. And I think that's the key. The key is there will always be crisis. Even after the academies now, I've been innovating new social enterprises. I'm involved in new projects, new ways to help people out of unemployment, tackling poverty and injustice. Yes, there's been crisis moments again. But the key is, for me, after that recession, I was able to say I still delivered on the dream in spite of what happened in the recession. It wasn't a moment of I didn't make it because of that recession. And that's my real message of hope, of encouragement today is, Yes, we're in COVID-19. Yes, you may have a dream that you think gone. The dream's not gone. We've just got to find another route. Yes, it will be challenging. Yes, you'll be pushed to your limits maybe sometimes, but it's worth it. And every time we go to bed tired, we wake up afresh. And the good news is you don't have to do it on your own. You'll meet people on the way, network, build friendships, mentorships, ask for help when you need it, and you'll find a way. So yeah, I hope today's been an encouragement for you. I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. Reach out. I'd love to connect with you, hear about your story. And I look forward to one day watching your video on what you've overcome to get through COVID, after COVID, to fulfill your dreams and the learnings that you can then pass on to those other younger people coming through education into work as well. So I wish you well. I look forward to connecting and speaking to you in the future. Bye bye.